Hey everyone, welcome back to the Hardware News Recap of the Week. There's a lot of news to recap, and it won't recap itself. I'm back. It was a fun trip out to Taiwan. Shout out to the viewer who saw me on Elephant Mountain and then who needed my help being guided back down. That's another story. We'll talk about that another time. I'm glad you made it down, though. Everything worked out okay. There's some news to recap. Intel has a new CEO. AMD says demand for its GPUs is unprecedented, and MSI says it won't make any. Additionally, we have a computer refurbishing event coming up, but I've got, I don't know, about 10 pages of news here, so let's get into it. Before that, this video is brought to you by the Height Y70 Touch Infinite. We previously reviewed the Height Y70 non-touch series and found its overall build quality to be good and competitive. Now, the Y70 Touch Infinite ships with a custom 14.9-inch IPS touchscreen with a 60Hz refresh rate. The screen connects to your system build and can be used as a showpiece on the angled corner front panel, displaying stats, music players, videos, and more. Height's entire Y70 series now also includes multiple new colors, like the Taro model that you're seeing here. Learn more at the link in the description below. First up, we have a special announcement of an event coming up. This is the first ever meetup that GN has done, where we're working with the Kramden Institute. It's a local e-waste and computer part refurbishing group that works to basically try and salvage things before they go to e-waste to reuse them in computers that can then be distributed to people who don't have access to computers, or at least not good access to them. And then anything that can't be saved, they send through the proper channels or recycle themselves. So we're hosting this event with them. It's pretty cool because there's two things going on. One is a garage sale of parts where, well, we'll talk about that in a second, but it'll get you access to computer parts if you go. The other one is an active thing where you come in, you join me and some of the people on the team and other volunteers there, and we are going to fix and refurbish computers. For example, things that might have been donated by local businesses that are dysfunctional for one reason or another, and that's part of the fun. You get to troubleshoot. Is it the stick of RAM that's broken? What is it? Is it the CMOS battery? Goes down the line to get triaged with a Linux install or a Windows install with their processes. So it'll be really fun. It's going to last a couple hours. You don't have to stay for the whole thing, but if you can't attend, there's very limited space for this. So there's a sign up with a limited amount of tickets because there's a physical space constraint in the building. It's going to be at their building where they have all the parts available, but they've got space constraints, so please don't sign up unless you are for sure going to go because it'll eat a ticket that someone else could use, and don't sign up if you're mixed on it because we're probably going to do more of these in the future, so you'll have more opportunities. Anyway, there are two components to this. So the first is the mini computer repair event. The second is a garage sale of cheaper computer hardware that we're contributing from GN, but also Height, iBuyPower, AMD, and Cooler Master are all contributing at least a couple things. It's pretty cool. And those parts will be sold at a discount to help viewers who are able to attend the meetup event. If you want to bring something for me to sign or you want to take a photo or whatever, you're welcome to. But all of the sales of all those things will go only to Kramden, so we're not taking any of it. And that'll support their e-waste programs, their refurb and computer and tech education programs. For the refurb event, it'd be pretty fun. We're working with viewers and volunteers to refurbish computers that would otherwise have been destined for landfills by turning them into working machines. So that's the fun part. It's troubleshooting, and you do musical chairs with the parts until you have a bunch of working computers. And it's fun. I actually did this at Kramden Institute probably, I don't know, 17 or 18 years ago or something. It was before GN. It was before I created GN. Went out there and with Patrick Stone actually and refurbished a bunch of computers. It was really fun. I loved it. Get hands-on with it and learn a lot about the system. So anyway, the event will be on April 5th. And these are going to be not gaming computers, but mostly office computers that have been retired, basic home use computers, things like that. Now, if you have parts that you don't need anymore, whether you're going to this thing or not, certainly look for local computer part refurbishers or e-waste recyclers near you if it has no other value, like on eBay or something. But if you want to send it to Kramden, they'll take it. Or if you are attending and you want to bring a computer you no longer need, they have data destruction. They'll destroy the drives or just the data on them, and then they can take the rest of the computer and sort of redeploy it out to someone who can make use of it again and get some extra life out of the electronics. So the event's going to be on April 5th. Kramden calls these refurbishing events geek-a-thons, as in marathons, and the doors will open at 9 a.m. for the refurb part. That'll last until 12 p.m. It's about 3 hours. You don't have to stay the entire time. The equipment garage sale will be from 1 p.m. until 4 p.m. with entry slots of about 25 people every hour to manage the amount of people flowing through it. And you can sign up on Eventbrite at the link below, but again, please be respectful to the very limited slots and space available, and only sign up if you are sure you can make it. We'll do more of these so you'll have more opportunities, and the refurbishing event has some light requirements as well, like being 16 and older, having closed-toed shoes since you'd be rebuilding and moving computers possibly, and just keep in mind you might appear on camera. Also, a massive thanks to Bill and Matt from AMD for digging around and finding some motherboards and CPUs. Those will be in the garage sale. These are actually components that are retired from AMD's testing lab that we've been in, so they have some provenance and history from being used and bring up at product launches, troubleshooting, and you can get them for a little cheaper than retail. A big thanks as well to Height and iWayPower for sending out a couple systems along, and to Way at Cooler Master for sending some inventory over from Cooler Master's lineup. Now, for those of you who are a little farther away, we'll have a separate thing we'll talk about in the future to at least try and get you something that's, you know, it won't be a meetup, obviously, or a refurb thing in person at Kramden, but we'll try and get something related to garage sale for you up. And anyway, we'll be filming the event for the channel. We're doing also 10% of the GN Store sales right now to the Kramden Institute. So anything you buy from us on store.gamersnexus.net until the promo ends, 10% of that money will go towards Kramden, which will also help fund all of this. So we're really excited about it. It'll be a lot of fun. I wanted to do something that, you know, when I did the computer refurbishing with Kramden almost 2 decades ago now, wow, that I still remember that really well. And I learned a ton. I really didn't know that much about computers yet. I had built a couple, I think, but that was about it. And it was super educational. It was really fun to get hands-on with this stuff and try to identify issues, and you get guidance from people. Like I'll be walking around there to all the different tables to help people troubleshoot, identify issues. We'll kind of learn about the computer parts together and whatever the defects are in the lineup that we're repairing and redeploying. And I loved it. So when I did that 16 to 18 years ago, whatever it was, that remains a strong memory for me, and I would like to try and bring that to other people, especially those of you who might be learning. Maybe you haven't built a computer yet, and you want a sort of controlled environment where there's going to be people around to guide you, but also parts that really aren't worth that much anyway. Like if you break something in the process of trying to fix something that's broken, not a big loss. Better if you don't. That's what the guidance is for, but also not a big loss. So anyway, that's going on, links below. All right, first news item, Intel appoints a new CEO. So Intel's board of directors has appointed new CEO Lip-Bu Tan for a replacement to the interim co-CEOs, David Zinsner and Michelle Johnston Holthouse. So both of them temporarily took over after Pat Gelsinger's departure in December last year, 2024, and they were not intended to be permanent CEOs. It was possible one of them could have been a permanent CEO, but Intel sticking with the original plan, used them as an interim stopgap, and now they've appointed someone new. So Lip-Bu Tan, some information on this individual. He was previously a part of Intel's board of directors and has experience with the company, including serving on its board until August of last year. Tan was previously CEO of Cadence Design Systems between 2009 and 2021. In terms of his educational background, he received a Bachelor of Science in Physics from Nanyang Technological University, a Master of Science in Nuclear Engineering from MIT, and an MBA from the University of San Francisco. Now, there's some pretty low-hanging fruit, easy jokes here about nuclear engineering being very useful for CPUs which require a nuclear power plant to operate because of their power consumption being so high, but we're not going to make those jokes. Nope, we will not. We won't even talk about them. Anyway, Cadence Design Systems has been around since the 80s, and it has a huge product portfolio of mostly software. Includes software for signal integrity analysis, simulation software, computational fluid dynamics or CFD software, and dozens more, many of which came through an extensive list of acquisitions. In a press release, the new CEO of Intel now stated, quote, "I'm honored to join Intel as CEO. I have tremendous respect and admiration for this iconic company, and I see significant opportunities to remake our business in ways that serve our customers better and, create value for our shareholders." Now, Mr. Lip-Bu Tan, if you're watching this, and I suspect you have absolutely no reason to waste your time doing that, I've got some advice for you. The shareholder value really comes from within. It's when you, from within, say AI. I just created shareholder value just by saying it. I willed it into existence. Try that. Actually, I've got an example reel for you.
AI, 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 AI. AI, 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 AI.
Anyway, the new CEO continued and said, Intel has a powerful and differentiated computing platform, a vast customer installed base, and a robust manufacturing footprint that is getting stronger by the day as we rebuild our process technology roadmap, end quote. Now, the reason we go through the new CEO's backgrounds whenever they're appointed to these companies, it kind of gives us an idea of what the company thinks it needs, or at least the board, and what direction it's going to go. So there is an MBA in the list of degrees, but that accompanies degrees in science and engineering, and over the years covering Intel, a lot of the recurring commentary has been about, okay, is it an engineering CEO right now, or is it an MBA CEO right now? And with Pat Gelsinger, they went back to engineering CEOs after a long run of sort of finance-focused CEOs. And it looks like, based on the sort of resume here, that's what they're sticking with. I personally am not familiar with Lip-Bu-Tan's background. I don't know a ton about Cadence other than what I sort of read on Wikipedia, and I've encountered it a couple times over the years. But based on the background here, it sounds like Intel's sticking with the more technical type of leadership, which is what everyone pretty much thought they needed when Pat Gelsinger was appointed previously. So we'll see where they go with it. There are pieces in place for Intel that remain incredibly interesting, like the fabrication plans. How it executes on all that, obviously, is what will dictate if it can make it out of the current massive hole that it's found itself into. I mean, it's been innovating shovels for years with its desktop CPUs, and it's been digging quite the hole. So we'll see if Intel's new CEO can start filling that hole back in. I mean, they should climb out of it first. That would be ideal. But filling it in is one of the two steps there. Up next, AMD had previously stated that its RDNA 4 GPUs would have, quote, wide availability. But as we pointed out, and as pretty much everyone else has, that hasn't stopped the high prices from happening, the sort of general lack of cards at the AMD MSRP as opposed to the boosted OC models and whatever. And it's been a less clean sweep than AMD probably would have wanted. AMD Vice President and General Manager David McAfee recently went on a podcast with Hot Hardware, where he elaborated on the situation, stating this, quote, the launch of RDNA 4 was really a milestone event for our graphics business. The demand was very, very, very strong all around the world, end quote. Discussing with Hot Hardware, they did get into the supply discussion that's been happening enthusiastically lately. McAfee said this, quote, the biggest thing we're doing, quite honestly, is ramping supply of Navi 48 very aggressively. The demand we saw on day one was really unprecedented across all the price points in the RDNA 4 product portfolio, end quote. The VP stated, quote, we want to make sure that users are able to buy cards at the prices they expect to see in the market. And he said, quote, we're doing everything that we can to make that happen, end quote. Now, AMD this time, of course, doesn't make its own reference model that you can buy directly from AMD, which we think has sort of an anchoring effect when NVIDIA and AMD make these, or Intel now, to help at least ensure something's available at MSRP and maybe pull some of the partners down a little bit on price. Again, anchoring that price. They don't do that this time. McAfee said that the company is working with board partners to ensure they have components available for GPUs of, well, quote, the widest assortment of cards that they can. So that'd be not just MSRP, but offering some hope regarding the pricing. McAfee did state this, quote, as we refill the channel from what happened last week, you'll see more supply coming. I will say that calling a launch what happened last week, like some sort of regretful text, what he actually means is we sold everything. It was a very successful 4 AMD launch. But sure, from what happened last week. Anyway, says you'll see more supply coming, and also said, quote, not just at the opening price points, but across the entire range as we look at the rest of this quarter, Q2 and beyond. Now, in related news, according to videocards.com, at a roundtable hosted by AMD in Japan, AMD was asked when more RX 9070 GPUs would become available. An AMD representative replied, quote, AMD just isn't used to selling so many graphics cards, end quote. Video Cards reports that, according to AMD rep Yoshiaki Sato, AMD has reached apparently 45% of Japan's GPU market share. Now, over the past week, there were also some news stories where I think it might have been BenchLife originated the information, but there was some kind of number out there for how many RX 9070 class GPUs AMD was alleged to have sold. AMD later put out a statement saying, nope, we never said any of that. We don't know where that came from. So if you're wondering about that news, we didn't put it in here just because it seems like it's kind of was a rumor that AMD claims it's not true. So there's nothing really to say at that point. All right, next one. Speaking of AMD's video cards, according to Tom's Hardware, MSI is still not planning to make any. So we sort of knew this from the RX 7000 launch. MSI at that time had publicly made a statement about how AMD's motherboards are great and it's happy to keep making those, but it's really focusing its efforts on NVIDIA GPUs for that one. Now, they did make a couple 7000 series cards, but it has decided to just not make any 9070 series cards, at least right now. MSI told Tom's Hardware recently, quote, regarding your question, MSI is not manufacturing AMD GPUs this generation, end quote. While MSI did produce 7000 series cards for AMD in the 7800 XTX and 7600 families, it skipped out on releasing cards for the 7800 XT, the 7700 XT, and the 7600 XT. Tom's Hardware also points out, quote, a quick look at MSI's website shows that the last generation 4090, despite its eye-watering $1,600 price tag, was offered in 12 different variants, 3 times more than the entire RDNA 3 lineup, end quote from Tom's. Now, broadly speaking, betting on NVIDIA if you're planning a few years out seems like a pretty safe bet. This is, unfortunately for MSI, not the generation to miss out on 9070s. The 9070 launch seems to have been pretty successful for AMD. We'll see how well that maintains. It's really going to depend on their ability to sort of hit and maintain that pricing, especially as NVIDIA starts to come down for the 5070 Ti. So we'll see how that maintains. But MSI sitting this one out, it's got to hurt a little bit. We would guess, though, that MSI might be maybe vying for some favor, where ever since EVGA left, this is still true today, there has been a sort of a power vacuum that all of the board partners are trying to fill. They all want to be the next EVGA, where EVGA was the favored partner from NVIDIA. It was an exclusive partner. They got all kinds of special access and more allocation in a lot of instances, special treatment in a lot of instances. So it seems like MSI might be trying to garner some of that favor by saying, we're not going to make AMD. We want to be with you, NVIDIA. You're the one for us. But they're not the only ones doing that. And PNY is also, it has sort of maintained a favored position with NVIDIA, even though it's not really discussed that much in the gaming segment specifically. So anyway, that's just kind of, that's what my read on the situation is from MSI, where maybe they're trying to say to NVIDIA, hey, this is our signal of we want more allocation from NVIDIA GPUs. Up next, some Valve leaks from user Sadly It's Bradley on Twitter. Tweeted a picture of a SteamOS logo with the accompanying sentence, quote, it's almost here, end quote, alluding to the possibility of a Valve SteamOS launch beyond the Steam Deck and the Lenovo Legion solution. He followed that tweet by writing, quote, I didn't make the image I posted above. It's the official generic splash screen for SteamOS general release non-Steam Deck devices, end quote. A Twitter user responded, quote, please tell me this isn't copium and indeed a public official SteamOS is going to be a thing soon, end quote. To which the leaker responded, not copium. Valve pushed a ton of commits to prepare for SteamOS general public release, end quote. There was some more discussion about whether the general public meant as in user installable, and the leaker responded to say, quote, that's the plan. However, they originally were targeting people to install it mostly on handheld PCs at the start. And he went on to write, quote, from what I understand, anyone will be able to download the official image, installed, whatever, and try to install it on their devices, but Valve is mostly insinuating that handheld PCs will have the best experience in doing so, end quote. In the meantime, Lenovo's Legion Go with SteamOS, the new Legion Go that is now up for pre-order and should launch in May, according to PC World. Speaking of gaming handhelds, Qualcomm is planning on releasing 3 new processor solutions for use in them. These include the Snapdragon G3 Gen 3, the Snapdragon G2 Gen 2, and the G1 Gen 2. The company revealed that these chips will be featured in gaming handhelds from companies that include Ioneo, One X Player, and Retroid Pocket. Now, Ioneo is maybe the easy one to guess here because Ioneo, in the best way, has kind of been that meme of releasing like a new handheld almost weekly sometimes. Sure, the discussion was something like Ioneo going over to Qualcomm with a, you got any more of the SoCs we could put on new SKUs because we really need more SKUs right now. The Snapdragon G3 Gen 3 is the flagship here with an 8-core CPU, by their definition, that has 1 prime core, 5 performance cores, and 2 efficiency cores, by their naming. On the graphics side, it's powered by an Adreno A32 GPU, which Qualcomm says is able to support QHD+ displays. The Snapdragon G2 Gen 2 also supports the same resolution and refresh rate displays, but offers 1 fewer performance core and 1 more efficiency core for its CPU. Its GPU is also seemingly scaled down, running the Adreno A22. Finally, the Snapdragon G1 Gen 2 scales the GPU down to an A12 and is relegated to displays that support what they call FHD+, or up to that, which is accompanied by its CPU using an 8-core, as they call it, cryo solution, not as in cold, but only offers 2 performance cores with 6 efficiency cores. Up next, according to a consultancy and data agency, Newzoo, there's over 907.5 million PC gamers, and a lot of them like to play, quote, older live service games, end quote. I don't know what they were talking about. I was just playing games from 23 years ago. So, also Heroes 3, when did that come out? I was playing that the other day too. PC Gamer, who got a hold of the reported data, wrote, quote, the results are extrapolated from a yearly in-depth survey of 73,000 players alongside data from over 10,000 games. It's a really important key there, extrapolated. So they are taking survey data and expanding upon it. There's obviously, depending on how the survey was done, the sort of cross-section of people they got, there may be some gaps in the data. But let's go through the write-up from PC Gamer and some of the data anyway, just to see what's in there. Now, in comparison, the PC gaming market dwarfs the console audience, which is estimated to be at 653.1 million players. Expanding on what, quote, older games means, PC Gamer wrote this, quote, the data shows that from January 2024 to December 2024, 64% of player hours on PC were spent on a game that was 6 or more years old. A further 25% of player hours were spent on games that were 2 to 5 years old, and the remaining 8% of time was spent on games that are less than 2 years old, end quote. Highlighting some older live service games that PC gamers still play, Newzoo outlined games like League of Legends, Roblox, Dota 2, and Fortnite. This data aligns pretty well with Steam's hardware survey, which highlights how the 2-year-old 4060 is the most popular video card on the platform, followed closely by the 4-year-old 3060, and there's a lot of laptop representation in there too. Now, SteamDB has plenty of information on the most popular games, and as an example, GTA 5 has remained in the top played list basically since launch, and it launched in 2013 and 2015, if I remember correctly. I think PC got it in 2015. So definitely, it makes sense that the older games are more played. It is interesting to see it in this amount by the extrapolation at 67% of player hours. And personally, I am also in this group, especially because by the time I actually have some time to play a game, normally I'm going, what were the things I was excited about a couple years ago that I never got around to, not what is out now. That's going to be a massive time vampire if I want to really commit to it while it's super relevant. So anyway, sure, that's an experience for a lot of you as well, but let us know what older games you play in the comments, because that is something I would like to see, because I'm probably going to treat it like my game recommendation list for next things to play, especially on a plane. All right, we recently reported that Steam served as a means for scammers to distribute malware on its platform. So there's a new Steam scam survey where this time Steam wasn't used as a platform for distribution directly, but it was used indirectly. So last time it was a game called Pirate Fi that we reported on, where there was actual malware that was distributed through the downloader, and Valve sent out a statement to the players who had downloaded it to say, hey, you probably downloaded malware, you should get that checked out. This time though, the game, the quote-unquote game, leveraged the Steam platform to send people off-site to download a so-called demo to then get the malware. So Steam wasn't directly, it was kind of indirectly implicated there. We'll call it a game, it's not really a game, but anyway, the quote-unquote game in question this time is Sniper Phantom's Resolution. And the scam happens when users click on the developer's website link, which we're not going to do in our B-roll, and that was posted on Steam. That enables gamers to then download a supposed free demo. Now, this was flagged by Reddit user feral_wasp. Now, I've never seen a domesticated wasp, but I guess there's pets for everybody. So Feral Wasp had some comments on this and took to the PC gaming subreddit and posted this, quote, "You can tell all of the promotional art is clearly ripped off for other games. Fortunately, you aren't able to download anything from the Steam page itself, but the scare quotes website for the game has very little info and a link for a free demo. The demo is obviously just a virus in disguise, and the domain was registered a week ago. The publisher and developer is listed as Sierra 6 Studios, and this is reflected by the URL to the website," end quote. Now, to the scammer, I have a personal message. Don't you dare tarnish the name Sierra Studios. Sierra had some of the best city builder games of the late 90s and early 2000s that you can find anywhere for PC platforms, including the likes of Caesar 3, Poseidon, and Zeus. I think they did Pharaoh as well. So don't mess this up for Sierra. They had it bad enough when everybody stopped playing strategy games and city builders. But I suppose times have changed. Anyway, Reddit user MentBen3 says he did some additional analysis on the demo and came to this conclusion, quote, "It creates a startup task in the form updater.lnk, which just links back to Windows Defender smartscreen.exe, although an app data roaming high 1337 via create shortcut.vbs, so it can execute its malicious payload on every boot. It's an info stealer, so if you ran it, you need to remove the files it created and change every password for every account you have," end quote. Or in other words, it's a trap. Adding some validity to these claims, looking at the game's Steam store page, there's a notice now that reads, quote, "Sniper Phantom's resolution is no longer available on the Steam store," end quote. While it's unfortunate that this happened at all, it is a good reminder to carefully vet any third-party links, even if they're sourced from Steam, which appears to be an emerging third-party attack vector now, unfortunately for the Steam platform. Up next, speaking of scams, the FBI has seen an uptick in scams that it says are, quote, "involving free online document converter tools." So just kind of a PSA for you. In an FBI.gov blog post, the FBI Denver field office writes this, quote, "In this scenario, criminals use free online document converter tools to load malware onto victims' computers, leading to incidents such as ransomware," end quote. The post adds, quote, "To conduct this scheme, cyber criminals across the globe are using any type of free document converter or downloader tool. This might be a website claiming to convert one type of file to another, such as a .doc to a .pdf. It might also claim to combine files, such as joining multiple .jpegs into one .pdf file. The suspect program might claim to be an MP3 or MP4 downloading tool," end quote. According to the Bureau, these converters get the job done, which may give the false impression that they are safe, but can contain hidden malware that can give scammers access to sensitive data that might include things like social security numbers, birth dates, phone numbers, banking information, cryptocurrency data, passwords, and more. If you've become a victim to this scam, the agency recommends taking steps to protect your identity, reset passwords, all that stuff, update virus scanning software. Of course, the best thing to do is to not have it happen at all, so just kind of your regular ongoing reminder. I don't know, it's gotten, for those of us who grew up in sort of the Windows 95, 98, XP, 2000 ME era, that whole chunk of time, it was like Virus City, and using the internet at all, you were guaranteed to get some kind of malware at some point, even if it was just from injection through ad code on websites or something, which is a really common attack vector that would compromise totally legitimate otherwise services. But regular reminder, because as time has gone on and the built-in defense tools and the software has worked a lot better, it is still possible to really get screwed, especially, so the crypto stuff has been a big one where a lot of these tools now will look for things like saved, what are they called? Seed phrase, that's what it is. So they'll look for things like simple notepad files with seed phrases that are saved to try and gain access to wallets, stuff like that. So anyway, regular reminder, be safe with that stuff, even with Steam apparently. It's unfortunate there's not better advice than be safe, but that is kind of the best advice. Just think twice, before downloading or clicking a link or whatever. All right, our last two stories here, these are kind of fun. So first one involves running a Half-Life 2, not Half-Life 2 RTX remake. We talked about that last week or 2 weeks ago. This is just straight up Half-Life 2. And this is from a YouTube channel, Budget Builds Official, which got Half-Life 2 running on a video card with 8 megabytes of VRAM, which was small even for that time. Now, of course, this is relevant because 8 megabyte GPUs are actually NVIDIA's next gaming GPUs. That's what we'll get next year. All right, the GPU in question is Pine Technologies 3D Phantom XP 2800, which I'd actually personally never heard of. This was released in the mid-2000s. The YouTuber claims it, quote, hardly functions as a display adapter, end quote. It's a hell of an insult. The YouTube channel paired the GPU with an old setup that includes an AMD Athlon 64 CPU and 1 gigabyte of DDR memory running on Windows XP Home 32-bit. Running Half-Life 2 on the system, the game initially struggled to get 15 FPS and would crash every 5 minutes or so, the YouTuber said, even at 640 by 480 running on the lowest preset. But Budget Builds was ambitious and set out to get the game running at 60 FPS. And we've got a link to the video below in our sources document if you want to check it out. It's a fun video. We'll just give the highlights here so you can watch them for the rest. The setup involved meticulously tweaking config files, which the channel said took many hours that amounted to what they called a
painful time getting here.
And then to try and get it running at 60 FPS, the channel ended up disabling every effect and feature in the game. No reflections, minimal textures, no shadows, no anisotropic filtering, no anti-aliasing, DirectX 6, and running the game at 320 by 240. Once again, NVIDIA's dream resolution. You'll just need DLSS 7 and you're good to go. 4K gaming is going to happen one day. Now, visually, one YouTube commenter described the game as looking like a, quote, weird half-ass port of Half-Life 2 to the Game Boy Advance. And nearly all of the characters look like silhouettes, so they're kind of right. The game doesn't look good. It reportedly stopped crashing, and it was playable, though. And it also would occasionally hit 60 FPS. Really fun video to watch, though. Check that out below, especially considering it's an 8 megabyte memory card. So it feels like some kind of painful and mean-spirited commentary about today's video memory on GPUs. Outside of academic reasons, we can't see a reason to play the game like this today, except maybe if enough of us do, Valve will feel pity and mercifully release Half-Life 3. And then finally, this is a fun one. So video cards and GN, we commonly report on the leaks that they find. They pretty commonly report on some of our teardowns and things like that, our reviews. And now we're going to report on their report about our report. And we're creating the infinity mirror of coverage here. So Video Cards published a quick write-up of our Yeston, let me get the name, Radeon RX 9070 XT Sakura Sugar Atlantis OC video card, aka Waifu Edition. And Video Cards talked about how we passed around a small rolled object in the office for everybody to do smell testing. Video Cards wrote this, and for once, the marketing hype about a fragrance experience isn't just hot air. Well, technically it is hot air, but you get the point. Gamers Nexus, always thorough in their testing, didn't just benchmark the card, they sniffed it, end quote. You're damn right we sniffed it, and it's not funny. That is a very real and valid test. This is exactly why you come to us for the in-depth testing. We don't just benchmark the cards, we smell them. Just like for thermal paste, the taste testing, don't try that at home. That's what we're here for. I'm the professional thermal paste sniffer and taste test. Actually, Der Bauer is, but I'm learning from him as an apprentice. That's why you come to us. Anyway, Video Cards also said this, quote, the Gamers Nexus team described it as a mix between an air freshener, a department store perfume counter, and clean laundry. No testers were harmed in the process, but we imagine at least one walked away questioning their career choices, end quote. No, Video Cards, that is not true. Not one walked away questioning their career choices. All of us walked away questioning our career choices. All right, it was a fun review. If you haven't seen it, it's relatively positive, actually, so you should check that one out if you want to break from all the negativity with GPUs lately. It was a really fun review. It was different. And we did, in fact, do sniff testing, and thank you, Video Cards, for covering our extremely advanced and our investment into these new testing methods. We're so glad that somebody out there noticed, because you can't just do sniff testing on any product. Anyway, we'll talk about this more in our Red Devil versus Yeston Waifu Edition card head-to-head battle. Yes, it's happening, and yes, I am going to ask Andrew on the team to figure out some kind of animation intro for it. We're going to do it. So, all right, that's it for this one. Thanks for watching. Fun to get back into the news after a week or so of kind of, well, we had the NVIDIA news to cover, so it wasn't a total break. And if you missed that one, you should check it out. But thank you for watching. Subscribe for more. Go to store.camerasnexus.net to help that directly. And check out the Kramden link below if you're nearby and you want to go to it. We'll see you all next time.